5. It was a quiet, unassuming little cul-de-sac, late Victorian terraced dwellings in the early vernacular style. Angled stone bays and boxed sashes, carved brick sunflowers set between stories, and the complex coloured glazing of the front doors which is emblematic of the aesthetic movement. Here and there, a fretworked porch displayed elements of the domestic revival, and the elaborate plasterwork on the gables and eaves, based on the traditional pargeting of East Anglia, combined with the arts and crafts rising sun fan-like motifs to give that refreshingly eclectic mixture much typified in the work of the now legendary architect R. Norman Shaw. The modern additions of stone cladding and satellite dishes buggered the whole effect to kingdom come. The ice cream van moved slowly down the cul-de-sac and stopped at the end, its headlights fixed on the overgrown brick wall where X marked the spot. Cornelius switched off the engine, but not the lights, and took up the reinvented ocarina. "Right," said he, massaging the newly drilled holes with his long fingers. "Let's have a crack." Anna shook her head doubtfully, but Tuppe switched on the speaker and tapped the microphone. "Testing! 1, 2, 1, 2, testing!" His words were broadcast over a surprisingly large number of streets, but then it was so late and so quiet and everything. 1, 2, 1, 2, they went, echoing about the fish-scale slates and the Gothic revival ridge tiles, rattling the richly ornamented terracotta chimney pots, twanging the satellite dishes, and screwing up the reception for late-night viewers of the Italian porn channel. 1, 2, 1, 2. Tuppe gave Cornelius the thumbs up. "Blow," said he, and Cornelius blew. He wasn't much of a musician, anything of a musician in fact, so he gave it a bit of the old free form. "Holy God!" Folk leapt from their beds. "What the bloody hell was that?" they exclaimed in voices of rightful indignation. Cornelius, Anna, and Tuppe peered out through the windscreen at the overgrown wall. Tuppe scratched at his little head. Cornelius scratched his cap. "It didn't work." Tuppe looked up at his friend. "Blow it again." Again and again and again. In a quarter-mile radius, lights were flicking on and dogs beginning to howl. Cornelius gave the ocarina another big blow, and portals opened aplenty. Portals of the front door persuasion, and folk issued into the streets. They wore dressing gowns and pyjamas, some carried sticks, all were shouting. Beyond the overgrown wall, in a quietly patrolling police car, Sergeant Sturdy said, "Follow that noise." Inspector Horvis perused the luminous dial of his half-hunter. Enough was enough. All the lights were now out in number 27 Moby Dick Terrace. Mulligan must surely have turned in for the night. There was nothing to be gained by sitting about here any longer. It was just a dead end. "Verily, verily, thus and so." The downcast detective wound up his window, gathered his wits, and girded his loins. And then he drove away, in a red rankle and a grey Morris Minor. As the streets were so quiet and so clear of traffic, he didn't bother to check his rear-view mirror. Not that he would have seen much if he had. The car that slid silently after him wasn't showing any lights, and it was a very small car. No more than about 1 foot in length, but it didn't have any trouble keeping up. Oh, no trouble at all. Mulligan's Ices stood with its headlights out and its microphone switched to the off position. Its 3 occupants were crouched on the floor. They had their hands clamped over their ears because it had grown somewhat noisy of late. What with all the yelling and shouting and the pandemonium of fists beating on the sides of the van and everything, it was quite evident that the good burghers of Hammersmith did not take too kindly to being roused from their beds by late-night serenades on the reinvented ocarina. Those of the cul-de-sac had soon spied out the source of their disturbance and were now venting their collective spleen upon it. As his forehead bumped up and down on the floor, Cornelius Murphy felt that perhaps he had been just a trifle hasty in dismissing Anna's objection to his plan, without hearing it first. The spleen venters were just beginning a concerted rocking of the van with a view to overturning it when the police car arrived on the scene. Inspector Horvis lived in reduced circumstances in a large Georgian house on Kew Green, So reduced had these circumstances become over the years that the great detective had found himself having to let out room after room of the ancestral home in order to support its upkeep. He now occupied but a single garret room, whose only window, as cruel fate would have it, looked out across the Thames to Brentford. Hovis finally found a parking space 3 streets from home and climbed wearily from the Morris Minor. He left the car keys a-dangling in the dash. One thing he definitely meant to do, first thing in the morning, was to demand the return of his temporarily relocated police-issue Daimler. The inspector turned up his tweedy collar to the cold of the night, gripped the pommel of his cane and struck out for home. He didn't notice a tiny car parked just across the street, nor did he see the curious transformation which it now underwent. The tiny car bulged, distorted, and grew into a great man-like shape. The effect was not at all unlike those created by the now legendary industrial Light and Magic for Terminator 2, but, as those in know ILM create their effects mainly by using soft image and parallax Matador software, running on Silicon Graphics Iris 4D workstations. Digital matting and the parallel processing of live action and computer-generated elements by scanning everything into large-scale frame stores. This wasn't anything like that. This was much better. But as the inspector wasn't looking in that direction, he missed it.
Hello, what's all this then?
Police Sergeant Sturdy stroked his military mustachios as he spoke the traditional greeting and approached the melee. Constable Ken sat fidgeting in the car. He was acting under direct orders from his superior officer.
Shut up, stay put, do not radio for assistance, and keep your sticky fingers off the shooter.
All right, continued Ron as he elbowed his way into chaos.
Unhand that ice cream van, or I'll run a lot of you in.
Suddenly aware that there was a police presence in their midst, the pyjamaed protesters ceased their rancour and began to shuffle uncomfortably in their carpet slippers.
Right, said Ron. Now who is the ringleader of this riotous assembly?
Do what? A lady in a straw hat and a gingham housecoat stepped forward to confront the policeman.
Who is responsible for this unlawful gathering?
I don't know what you're talking about, said the lady in the straw hat. We were just queuing up for ice creams.
Really?
Ron tucked his thumbs into his waistcoat pockets and rocked back on his heels in a manner much favoured by P.C. Dixon of Dock Green.
Queuing for ice creams.
That's right, agreed the ladies' neighbours, bobbing their heads up and down. A drink or a stick, please, said someone.
2 chocolate ices and a king cone, said another. All right, said Ron, don't wind me up. I'm sure none of you solid citizens really wanted to be dragged away to the cells in your gym gems. The way she roams now, and we'll say no more about it. And that was about all he needed to say. The crowd melted and was gone, front doors closing without a single slam. Sergeant Sturdy returned to the police car. There, he told the youthful, pimply one, that is what we call doing it the old-fashioned way. Now, get out of the shooter and we'll have a word with the driver of the ice cream van. It was big and bad and ghastly green all over, and well muscled every inch from head to toe, and it curled its evil lip, and its tail began to whip. You could tell it wasn't very nice to know. But you couldn't tell exactly what it was, not without the handbook, and the handbook was kept under lock and key in a filing cabinet in one of the forbidden zones, and whatever it was now coming after Inspector Hovis. The great detective felt it coming before he turned and saw it. Not that he was the 7th son of a 7th son or anything like that. He was the only son of a belted earl, but he knew bad poetry all right. Oblivious to alliteration and pseudo-Shakespeareanisms he might be, but not to unwarranted dollops of duff verse bunged in out of the blue and creeping up behind him. Hovis faced the thing as it approached him. It was grinning from ear to ear, exposing a double rank of lime-green teeth. "Have a care," counselled the detective, gripping his cane between both hands. "Hands above your head and come out quietly,"
called Sergeant Sturdy.
"Hold the gun up straight now, Constable."
"Gun?" Cornelius groaned. "We're in trouble now," whispered Tuppe. "Sad," said Anna, "very sad."
"Shall I put a couple of rounds through the side to shift some ass?" asked Constable Ken.
"No need to be hasty, lad."
Cornelius rose to face his fate. Anna pulled him back.
"Let me handle this."
"Certainly not. This is my responsibility. I got you into this mess after all."
"And I shall get us out, trust me."
Cornelius looked at Tuppe, and Tuppe looked at Cornelius. Trust her, they both said. Anna stood up, straightened her hair and smiled from the serving window. Sorry about the delay, she said. Who wanted the king cone?
What do you want?
Inspector Horvitz stood his ground as the joyless green giant moved closer, its reflected image swelling in the detective's mirrored pince-nez. The creature stopped, but yards away, still grinning, it shone like a sprout by the light of the moon.
What order of being art thou?
Inquired the inspector, who numbered necromancy and conjuration amongst his many interests. The creature ran, a forked tongue, green as it was, about lips of a likewise hue.
Of the order of Trismegister,
it replied in a deep, dark, rumbling tone.
Then have a care, O just one, my cane is thrice blessed. Thrice what? Thrice blessed, by the word of the Tetragrammaton, by the 23rd ether of the Enochian call, and by the Hindu, Howdu, Hoodoo, Voodoo man of George Formbear.
The creature cocked its head on one side.
You cannot be serious,
it said.
Try me.
Hovis stepped back and traced a pentagram in the air with the tip of his cane.
Get out of here, George Formby, a great wizard.
Hovis made mystical passes with his cane, to and fro, and mimed the playing of a ukulele.
The Lancashire thaumaturge, be warned. You're pulling my plonker.
The creature took a step forward. Hovis took another step back.
What do you want?
He asked once more.
The diamonds. Aha! The Godolphins. I have them here.
Hovis patted a pocket.
Take them if you can. I will.
The beast stormed forward.
You bloody well won't.
Inspector Horvis twisted the silver pommel of his cane and drew out a shining blade.
Come taste my steel,
said he. Car 23 backed out of the cul-de-sac and drove away. I don't believe that. Cornelius climbed to his feet. I just do not believe you did that.
She sold them ice cream,
said Tuppe, and I politely answered all of their questions, and I apologise for any inconvenience I might have caused them, and I didn't charge them for the chocolate flakes. Went Tuppe. And what is supposed to mean?
It's not the way we would have done it.
And just how would you have done it?
Tell her, Cornelius.
Well, said the tall boy,
He'd have leapt into the driving seat and swerved around and sideswiped the police car and...
Tuppe made screeching noises and probably got us all killed.
It would be more exciting than selling them ice creams,
Tuppe complained. Have you quite finished? Anna asked.
No,
said Tuppe. Yes, said Cornelius, is quite finished.
I have not.
You have, said Tuppe. Listen, said Anna, you're going about this all the wrong way. You haven't planned ahead. She sat down on the floor of the van. You have the ocarina, but you don't know which notes to play. The new ones, said Cornelius, but you don't know what order to play them in. You surely didn't think you could just belt out any random bunch of notes and expect one of these portals of yours to swing right open?
I did,
said Tuppe. You would, said Anna. Hold on, said Cornelius. What you're saying is that the new notes must be played in a precise sequence, like knowing the right combination to open a safe, yes? It makes sense. It does make sense, doesn't it, Tuppe?
I suppose so.
Tuppe made a huffy face. Cornelius took out the reinvented ocarina and handed it to Anna. Go on then, he said.
Yeah,
said Tuppe.
Go on then.
Anna examined the instrument. You're quite sure you drilled the holes in the right places? She asked in a cool voice. Absolutely certain. I told you, the holes correspond to points in the map that Tuppe and I stopped at during our epic journey. Then they would be your best bet. What do you mean? We should go back to all the places? No, Anna shook her beautiful head. Her mother had told her that all men were basically stupid. She would one day pass this wisdom on to daughters of her own. Play the notes in the same order as you visited the places. That'd be my plan. Cornelius adjusted his cap, opened his mouth to speak, but couldn't think of anything to say. You can remember the order? Anna asked. Yes, said Cornelius. I mean, no, but I have the map here. He dragged the crumpled item from his pocket and spread it out on the dashboard. Then Anna handed back the ocarina. Why don't you have a little practice? And when you feel confident, we'll give it a quick burst to the loudspeaker and see what happens."
"And if nothing does?"
Tuppe asked. "If nothing does, it will mean one of two things. Either I'm wrong or you are."
"I am not wrong,"
said Cornelius Murphy. "Then go for it."
"OK, but we will do it this way. Tuppe will play the ocarina. I will sit at the wheel with the engine running, ready to make a swift getaway if needs be. And you will keep a lookout. How does that sound?"
"Sounds good to me."
Tuppe scrambled up onto the dashboard and perused the map. Anna turned her back upon him and gazed out of the rear window. Cornelius passed the small man the ocarina.
"Right," said Tuppe. "I think I can get my fingers round it. Here we go."
He put the ocarina to his lips and he blew. Now there is music, and then there is music. But a tune is a tune is a tune. It can be the birdie song or the big-eyed beans from Venus, or it can be that of the heavenly orders of Beethoven's Ninth, or that old toot that Stockhausen knocked out. Good grief. But you can always get, as they say, a handle on it somewhere. There is always something you can recognise, some note or tone or scale. No matter how discordant or off the wall, you could always recognise something. But not this time. Not with these notes. Now played in their correct order, they simply bore no resemblance whatsoever to any other notes yet known. They inhabited a realm of sound as yet uncharted by the human ear. The effect they had upon the occupants of the stolen ice cream van was, to say the least, varied. Anna was enraptured. Her mouth fell open and her breath hovered in her lungs. Shivers ran up and down her spine and all around many other places besides. She suddenly felt as horny as hell. Cornelius didn't. He felt anything but. The notes put his teeth on edge and his bladder reaching critical mass. And as for Tuppe, screamed the small one as he swept from his perch on the dashboard to become plastered against the roof of the van. Here he floundered around, dropping the ocarina and whatever tenuous hold he ever had on reality. "Get me down! Get me down!" Cornelius leapt immediately to his friend's ear. He clawed at Tuppe, tried to prise him down, but the player of the reinvented ocarina was now stuck fast. "Do something, Cornelius!" he howled. "I'm getting crunched here!" "Anna, help us!" Anna stood gazing into space and wearing a foolish grin. "Anna, help Tuppe, come on!" Anna blinked. "That was wonderful. Do it again." She turned and gaped up at Tuppe. "Shave his shape." "Come on, hurry, I can't get him down."
"Hurry!"
gasped Tuppe. "Magic," gasped Anna. "Come on, help me!" Anna sprang forward and began to tug at the Tuppe. "Magic." Tuppe was growing red in the face. "I can't breathe! I can't breathe!" "We'll get you down." Cornelius wrestled with the small fellow's shoulders. Anna swung from his feet, but he couldn't be shifted. He wouldn't be shifted. Not one jot, one iota, not one nothing. He was stuck, like brown stuff to a blanket, and his eyes were starting to bulge from his face, and his face was starting to turn blue. "Cornelius, he's dying, do something." Do something? Cornelius put his brain into gear. Inspector Horvis put his legs into gear. Although surprisingly nothing had been heard from him for the last 23 minutes, he'd been keeping himself rather busy, running mostly. There'd been quite a lot of running, but not very much in the way of heroic swordplay. Not any heroic swordplay at all, in fact, which probably accounts for the singular lack of exciting intercuts in the narrative. Or possibly a paragraph got left out somewhere. That sometimes happens, but whatever the case, he was back now, and he was somewhat up against it. Inspector Horvis jumped nimbly onto the bonnet of a parked Ford Fiesta as a great deal of green muscularity caught up with him.
"Are you going to give me a taste of that steel, or what?"
asked the limey Leviathan.
"Have at you, then."
Horvis took up the classic fencer's position, left elbow on the fence post, a cup of tea in the right hand, and a cigarillo hanging out of the mouth.
"And I'm sorry, madam, but if the wind blew it down, that's no fault of mine, and if you want us to put it up again, we'll have to charge you full price again, and cash up front, or we don't live to manage."
The creature looked at Horvis.
"Did a paragraph get left out, or something?" "How about you, then?"
Horvis took up the classic fencer's pose, knee slightly bent, left arm back and crooked at the elbow, left hand dangling, sword stick held firmly in the right hand, parallel to the ground and level with the tip of the nose. Traditionally, fencers hold their foils in the left hand to avoid possible injury to the right. Horvis didn't.
"Have at you!"
A swish and a flash of steel, and the creature now longed for the return of its nose.
"Yours, I believe."
Horvis proffered the severed conch, shish kebabbed on the tip of his blade.
Bidos!
The creature snatched it back and refastened it onto its face. You couldn't see the join.
Now gimme those diamonds. On guard!
Hovis skipped onto the roof of the Ford Fiesta, cleaving silvery arcs in the air.
Your flies are undone,
said the creature. Pardon me. Hovis hastened to adjust his dress. A big green fist hit him right in the teeth. And something hit Cornelius Murphy, right in the brain. The ocarina. He threw himself to the floor and scrabbled about in search of it. Forget the ocarina. Anna clung to Tuppe. It can't breathe any more. But I can. Cornelius snatched up the ocarina, put it to his lips and blew. The great green thingy dragged Inspector Hovis to the pavement and began to knock 7 bells of Beethoven out of him. And Cornelius Murphy played the reinvented ocarina.